I figured out how to win betting parlays, and in this video, I'm going to show you in 3 steps how you can do the same. Most parlays are a waste of money. Most of the time, people are just donating, throwing their parlays in there. But there are a select few ways to be able to profit long-term doing that. And this is one of those ways that I'm going to teach you. Now first, let's explain what type of parlay this is going to be, okay? This is going to be a 2-leg parlay, and it hits at 80% of the time. Now I know most people are going to read that and think that there's no way it hits actually 80% of the time. But I'm going to prove to you and show you the reason why it actually does. So let's get to step 1, okay? Step 1, this is going to be in baseball, okay? In the MLB. First thing you want to do is you want to find the top 2 pitchers on the slate, okay? And those are considered aces, okay? That's what we call the top pitchers that are pretty much on a team, okay? We want to first find the top 2 pitchers on the slate because not every day are there aces pitching, okay? So we have to find the top 2 pitchers on that slate first. Then what we're going to do is we're going to write that down. Now I'm going to show you guys an example of this, a live example of this a little bit later as well. But first, let's get through the strategy. Now, number 2, you want to make sure that the pitchers are going against the bottom 10 teams in hits per game. Okay, this is very important because this is going to correlate to the 2-leg that we're doing here. Okay, but you want to make sure they're going against the bottom 10 in hits per game team. And where you can find that at is team rankings. Okay, you go to teamrankings.com and you go under MLB, you go under team batting, and then you go to hits per game. You'll be able to literally filter through the bottom 10 and see which bottom 10 has hits per game. Okay, as a team, you want to make sure you have that. So once you have that list, you'll have your 2 pitchers written down. You'll have the bottom 10 teams. Make sure they're going against, obviously, the bottom 10 teams in hits per game. Now let's get to step 3. Step 3 is going to be, you need to now find the best probability for hits allowed by that pitcher, okay? For the under, okay? We're going to be looking at the under here, okay? So, hits allowed by the pitcher, the under. Now you want to find the probability that is 90% and up, okay? Probability needs to be 90% or above for that under for those pitchers. Then what you do is you just create a 2-team parlay for what? Those pitchers to go under their hits allowed number, okay? All you're doing is sandwiching 2 of the best pitchers on the slate going against teams that don't hit the ball that good, and then we're buying their hits allowed number all the way up to where we have at least a 90% or more probability, and then putting them both together. Now, if you guys want to fast forward through all this and you want the answers sent to you daily, because I go through all these strategies and then just give you the answers, make sure you guys click the link in the description. Now, where can you find this bet at? Well, there is one place you could find this, okay? And it's going to be at DraftKings. That's one place you could find this type of bet where you could sandwich both of the hits allowed under, where it's 90% probability or more, and put them together. Now let's get into a live example so you can see exactly how this works. So let's go ahead and start with, we're going to start with Ohtani here, okay? First we're going to look at his hits allowed, who he's going against. He's going against the Mets, okay? The Mets are actually literally 10th in hits per game. So they're right on that line of what we're looking at here. So next thing we want to look at is his hits allowed, where the probability skyrockets and goes the most, okay? Where we get over 90% probability. Now where we find 90% probability plus here is going to be 6 or fewer. That's exactly how it's going to look on the sportsbook as well. 6 or fewer. So what this essentially means is you're betting under 6.5, okay? So if he allows 7 hits, then you lose. Okay, he has to allow 7 hits for you to be able to lose here. Now, the odds for this play right here are minus 1,200, okay? Big number, right? That's why we use another player to put into this mix. But his probability here is 94%. Now we're going to use another example here. There's not another ace on the slate, so I'm going to use another example of a favorable matchup just so we could use that. We're going to look at Luis Gil versus the Angels. Okay, Luis Gil's on the Yankees. He's going against the Angels. Now the Angels are the 5th worst, okay, hits per game. Put that over there so that way you guys can see. Again, same thing here. Make sure I put worst so that way you understand that. Okay, 10th worst. The Mets are the 10th worst against Ohtani, and then the Angels are the 5th worst hits per game against Gil. Now, Gil's number is 7 or fewer, okay? So that's 1 up on Ohtani there. So that translates to pretty much under 7.5, meaning that 8 hits now would cause you to lose this play. Now his odds for here are going to be minus 650. Okay, so a little better than Ohtani's number, right? But his actual true probability here, a little bit more, 96%. Okay, so now we have a 96% and a 94%. So first, it's qualified, right? We have teams that are we have pitchers that are going against teams that are the worst in hits per game. We have got the number all the way down to where we have over a 90% probability, both ends here. Okay. Now what we have to do is we have to put these together and find if our implied probability the sportsbook gives us on these is going to beat our true probability, or do we actually have an edge? And what you're looking at here is the actual true probability, okay? Those numbers are the true probability. That's the actual number of that event actually occurring. So now when we put both of these together, what we're going to get is a minus 400 play, which comes out to an 80% implied probability. Now the true probability is we put both of these together, okay? Doesn't mean that you add them both together and divide by 2. That is not how you come up with the probability for 2-leg parlays to actually hit. Okay, it's not how you do it. I use a calculator, it's a simple calculator. It's called an Omni calculator. Literally go into Google, you put the 2 events to occur at the same time, the odds, it shows Omni calculator, it'll show you exactly, you just plug in the numbers and it'll show you the percent, okay, the true probability percent. So the true probability of this 2-leg right here is going to be 90%. So that gives us what here? A plus 10% edge on this play, okay? We've created a plus 10% edge. Now, let me show you what happens when we try to use the minus 110 regular numbers that the sportsbook gives you here, and why when most people are betting those type of parlays, they're constantly losing. And I'm going to show you exactly the reason why. So we're going to go ahead and use the same exact examples, okay? We're going to go with Ohtani, right, versus the Mets, and Gil against the Angels. Now let's take a look at their minus 110 numbers and what that is going to look like when we throw in the true probability and all that and try to wedge it together. Okay, so first off, let's look at Ohtani. His number is going to be under 3.5. Same thing with Gil. They're both actually the same thing here. Both going to be under 3.5. If one of them gets 4 hits, you end up losing because you need both of them to win. Okay, now let's find what the true probability is for this right here. For Gil, his true probability here is 25%. His true probability is 61%. Now, when we put these two together to make a 2-leg parlay, we're going to get a true probability percent, okay? It's going to be 15. So now for this to make sense, our implied probability and the odds that we find when we smash these two together has to be giving us an edge. Okay, we have to have an edge here. So the implied probability has to be below 15%. Now, with the odds being like this, because that's what these odds are at this number. Ohtani's minus 120, Gil is minus 112. You're not going to get that. Okay, you're not going to get below 15% true probability. When you put these two together, you get a plus 247. That's what your odds are going to be. So what that translates to is implied probability, which is 29%. So the sportsbook's telling you there's a 29% chance that this is going to hit, but the true probability of this event actually occurring is only 15%. So thus giving you a negative 14% edge. And this right here is why people lose so much on parlays, because they don't realize when they're putting together these type of numbers that you're actually at a disadvantage almost all the time. If you're not manipulating the numbers in your favor to where it makes sense, then you are actually literally slow bleeding yourself constantly until you have absolutely nothing left. As always, I'm Frank with Linemaker Sports. I'll see you guys in the next video. Till then, I'm out.